Okay, fine. Hey everyone, I'm a guy that exists, and welcome back to How to Break It, the series where I take an existing commander strategy and show you a list of cards to help you break the game. And today we are doing Sarulf Realm Eater. For one generic, I'm gonna make goth aesthetic my lifestyle, and nature, man! Sarulf Realm Eater is a legendary creature wolf. Whenever a permanent an opponent controls is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Sarulf Realm Eater. At the beginning of your upkeep, if Sarulf has one or more 1/1 counters on it, you may remove all of them. If you do, exile each other non-land permanent with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of counters. So in all the versions of this deck that I've seen played before, it all revolves around protecting the boy and giving him more 1/1 counters through instants and sorceries. But that's not what I'm doing with it. So on today's episode of How to Break It, we're going to make Sarulf as big as possible and swing out with commander damage for the win. And, maybe a little bit of land destruction. Rules here is important, have that discussion, But before we go into ways to make enemies, let's talk about drawing cards. Enter Braid's Arisen Nightmare. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice an artifact, creature, enchantment, land, or planeswalker. If you do, each opponent may sacrifice a permanent that shares a card type with it. For each opponent who doesn't, that player loses 2 life and you draw a card. Ooh! So the idea behind this deck is that you're going to have a lot of permanents that have static effects that make your opponents sacrifice permanents, which makes your commander huge. So the Braid's Arisen Nightmare being in the deck either makes your commander bigger by opponents sacrificing stuff that you don't need anymore, or they say, I want to keep my stuff, and you get card draw from each of your opponents. Alright, now let's make everyone hate us. Smallpox. Lose a life, discard a card, sacrifice a creature, sacrifice a land. Everybody does this, everybody's sad. Except you! And let's gain some of that mana back, in addition to not having to use the board wipe that's stapled to your commander. Seems legit. Yeah! That's good. Underrated. And here's some more good budget creature removal. Or planeswalkers if you're dealing with that person who's playing with loyalty. Pesky artifacts and enchantments on the board? How about no? For all those blue players in your life, man. And since you're in green with a ton of big mana, as your win con, I'm gonna suggest Torment of Hailfire. Pay X to repeat the following process X times. Each opponent loses 3 life unless that player sacrifices a non-land permanent or discards a card. Darned if they do, darned if they don't. This has been the Deck Tech on the world's hungriest boy, and that's How to Break It. And thanks again to Christian K for the comment. If you have any suggestions for commander strategies, leave them in the comments. I'll be reading them. See ya!